The price of Bitcoin is starting Monday with a little bit of a pump, and there are a lot of people very bearish on my previous video. So you're saying that a bear flag will produce a pump, lol, and below 90k is virtually guaranteed. Prepare to get wrecked, homie. All of these different comments. And I'm just here to talk about the probabilities. We do know there is a lot of uncertainty right now with the whole situation of Iran and Israel. But what I want to be talking about in this episode is that there's still higher probability that we claim all-time high. Does that mean that we cannot go to the downside? Absolutely not. However, there is only one bearish case scenario that does manage to get below 100k, which would still be very bullish to then get a massive bounce. But potentially we do not get there. And I want to explain the different scenarios, guys. Now, most importantly, is this movement to the downside. It is not a leading move in a five-wave structure. There is no impulsive move to the downside here. It is well labeled better as a three-wave corrective structure. If we are counting this as a five-wave structure, we do have overlap from your wave 4 and your wave 1. And also your wave 5, if you are going to consider this a wave 5, it is moved down in a three-wave structure. There is only one way for this to be a three-wave structure, fifth wave, and that is with a expanding diagonal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right over here. Okay, with three-wave structures inside of all of the five waves, which is still considering this as an A, B, and a C wave, okay? It is still a three-wave structure, not a five-wave structure, which it means it's not a leading move to get a successful move to the downside. All of this likely to be corrective, and all-time highs is a matter of time. I still remain in my long positions, did take some profits on this one on bluffing, and still remain in this long position that I opened on Friday on the drop, understanding the structure. Now, this movement to the downside is also labeled much better as a three-wave structure and not a five-wave structure. If we would have formed a five-wave structure with this massive move down with the highest amount of volume, we should have had a bull flag and then a movement to the downside to claim the lows. Just like this character right over here saying that, hey, are we going to, you're saying that a bull flag is literally going to be pumping to the upside, lol. Well, I think he was referring to this being a bear flag, right? Sorry, a bear flag right over here, and it should be breaking down. However, the price is pumping up. If this were to be a five-wave move to the downside, well, the bears missed their chance because this pump right over here has already overlapped the golden pocket, and that is an invalidation for a wave 4. And anyway, all of this movement down was labeled much better as a three-wave structure. We can just go quickly through that. It's not too complicated. All right, we just see this zigzag move to the downside. You could consider it a flat. On some exchanges, we did hit the 0.9 Fibonacci. You had a three-wave structure to the upside right over here, and also a three-wave structure to the downside on the lower time frames on this movement, okay? So all part of a corrective structure, not a leading move to the downside to get an epic breakdown. Some people calling for 90k already, right? That is very, very far away. All of this looks corrective. And let's just break down, okay? Is there a bearish case? Absolutely. We could consider the double zigzag scenario. I haven't really got it on the chart here just because I think it's so low probability, just because this bounce right over here, almost hitting the 0.88 Fibonacci. Potentially on some exchanges it did hit the 0.88, yes, such as Bybit. This is a very rare target for a double zigzag. And a double zigzag, what I mean is this being a zigzag and an ABC with that expanding move to the downside. You got your zigzag move up here in your wave X, and now you're expecting another zigzag to the downside. However, when you hit the 0.7 Fibonacci from this movement to the downside, it is extremely rare to get a double zigzag. So we're not liking the impulsive move down for a wave 3. It doesn't look good. All of this looks corrective. And we're not considering a double zigzag, which would be the most bearish case scenario. I'm going to say it is possible because this is not an invalidation that you get above the 0.7 Fibonacci, even hitting the 0.88. It's not an invalidation. It is just extremely rare to get a double zigzag to the downside after retracing so much after this zigzag down. So what are the most likely scenarios? Well, the range continues, okay? Let's talk about the other different possibilities. I have to say, could it be a double zigzag down? It is a possibility, okay? The possibilities are very low, but you just need to consider them. Everybody's very distracted with this whole Iran-Israel situation, uncertainty, and that we are just likely going to go to the downside. So let's just talk about the easy resistance and support levels and the different scenarios considering Elliott wave theory. First of all, I like to take a look at the fixed volume profile. We are inside of the range and the point of control did held here very, very nicely. Now it is true that we are moving up very, very zigzaggy, right? Could it end up in an impulse, right? Well, we have to see the bulls prove themselves here, get that wave 3, wave 4, wave 5, could it be developed in the next 1 to 2 days? Potentially, yes, we're going to have to see that structure. But overall, what are the scenarios? I think one that is, a very much a high possibility that it could happen is that we have your 3-wave structure here with your expanding diagonal in your wave C, 3-wave move to the upside, all right? And hitting the 0.88 Fibonacci or almost hitting it is very common to see a sideways complex corrective structure, right? Where you're just very rangy, everybody gets very confused. And one of the scenarios is that your wave Y finishes in a triangle. So we do have the value area high, okay, of the entire range. We could be hitting the golden pocket to the 7-8 Fibonacci from the highs to the lows, all right? Very common target zone to start off your triangle, okay? 0.618, okay, N78 or 618 right over here, and 7.8, right? And then same thing, triangle, the golden pocket to the 7.8 is very, very common area to get those rejections or the pumps, right, from each pivot of the triangle. Could this be on the formation in the coming days? Absolutely. I think this is one of the highest probability scenarios that could happen. It might just continue ranging. We attempt to break value area high. This is a zone that could be interesting for all of those people that want to short. I'm not too confident in a short position at resistance just because I realize that the highest probability is heading to all-time high at some point, okay? So if I want to get into a short, I need to see a leading move to the downside on the lower time frames and a bounce, okay, in a 3-wave structure. And I will be aiming for the 7-8 Fibonacci in between 50% and 7-8 Fibonacci to then look for the next leg to the downside. But I need the first big impulsive move down on the lower time frames, give or take 5 minutes, okay, to 15 minutes. So if we do get that leg down, I'll probably short the bounce if we do get the rejection, okay? So this is what I'm looking at. Overall, not confident in shorting a resistance. Golden pocket with the value area high. Yes, it is resistance. It is a scenario that, we maybe could look at a short position. But overall, as mentioned, I'm expecting more all-time highs than a breakdown below 100K, just as I mentioned in the last few videos. So shorts are going to be a little bit more complex just because I realize that the probabilities are heading up to all-time high at some point. So shorting is going to be a little bit difficult. We need that proper sign of weakness in a 5-wave structure to then short the bounce, guys. I know I'm doing a lot of drawing here, but it is just like that. So triangle is a scenario. Of course, the triangle needs a lower high, a higher low, a lower high. That is the moment that we can start speculating on this, and we can be very bullish because this will actually confirm that we are forming a sideways WXY, okay? We've got a zigzag down, a zigzag to the upside. A triangle is a potential here, and then we get the movement to the upside. We need to be, paying very much attention if we've got a few lower highs and higher lows. That is when I'll be increasing my position. I will potentially be adding to my position as well. Let me just explain here with, this complex sideways corrective structure. This is literally this right over here, guys. Not many people like to see this, but this is what we're looking at. Either a flat, a zigzag in your wave W, zigzag up, very steep, as we can see, hitting the 0.88. And now, a triangle or a flat is a possibility, okay? So that's some things that we need to take into consideration. So option 2 here would be a flat, okay? We've moved down in a 3-wave structure. We also moved to the ups. We are moving to the upside. That could also be a 3-wave structure. And what we could be developing here is a flat for your wave Y, okay? it is a scenario. I would be more interested in really looking at these lower highs. Could be a scenario. Of course, the B wave could actually get to all-time high, but this would be the moment of interest after sweeping the highs and sweeping all of that liquidity, because there is a lot of short liquidations, guys. There's more short liquidations, all right, to the upside than actually long liquidations, okay? You can see it on the liquidity map. There is significant liquidity of shorts, which obviously becomes more interesting. That's what you want to see. If the probabilities on the chart are leaning more to all-time highs, okay, are leaning more that this is corrective, and you do have lots of liquidity, well, then it's the perfect recipe to have that short squeeze, right? Charts look bullish, and also we have lots of short liquidations. Well, you know, do the math, right? It's highly likely. So the flat is a possibility. Of course, the flat to develop, we probably have our A wave, our B wave, and now we could be developing our C wave. It could be very punchy. We could be hitting the 1.618 extension for the C wave. All right, okay, here in this ABC flat, could be heading all the way up there to actually sweep up all of these highs. That's where the 1.618 is from this movement. You're just going to have to see the development, but a swing failure pattern from these lower highs without hitting all-time highs to then get a steep drop is a possibility. I would potentially, you know, attempt an SFP from that level. I'm traveling today, so, you know, who knows? I might sniper it on the phone. Let's see how that develops. So a flat is also an option, okay? So these are the two most probability scenarios, okay? Either the flat, okay, in your wave W and your wave Y, sorry, or a triangle that's going to be ranging for the next coming days still, okay, guys? Not much more has to be said, all right? This is basically the highest probability. Is there a chance here for a double zigzag down? As mentioned, it would be rare because your W has hit the 0.88 Fibonacci. It's got above the 0.7 Fibonacci. And this is most common for a sideways corrective move to then get continuation to the upside. This would be actually quite rare. It is not impossible. It is rare. And now with the uncertainty with Iran-Israel situation, you know, a lot of people are like bearish, we're going to go down. My comment section on the previous video, my God, this is, you know, you're saying that a bear flag will break, you know, is gonna pump. Well, yeah, I mean, if you're looking at this, there's no bear flag on the higher time frame. I would assume that this is the bear flag. And, you know, for the moment, yeah, you can still say it's at the resistance point of the channel. It doesn't matter, guys. I don't trade these kind of patterns, all right? They're pretty worthless in my opinion. Guys, remember that you do have insane bonuses down below, okay, for bluffing or for weeks, okay? You do have 20% deposit bonus, all of these different perks. On weeks, you get 25% fee reduction, $30,000 deposit bonus, all of this with the links down below in the description. Second link and the fourth link, okay, for bluffing. You just need an email and a password to sign up. Legends to trade Bitcoin and hundreds of altcoins. Not much more has to be said. Levels that I'm taking into consideration, you know, I'm keeping it a little bit simple here, is, yeah, this would be dangerous for a short position, in my opinion. The value area high with the golden pocket. I want to see a sign of weakness in a 5-wave structure, guys, okay? Price action moves in 3 waves or in 5 waves. It is, you know, it is like that. That's how the price moves. So if we are going to get a first leg down in a 5-wave move, I'll maybe want to short the bounce, okay, if it is corrective, to then get a move to the downside. But shorting here on the first touch of resistance, yes, it is the golden pocket. It is the value area high of the range. I'm just still very much aware of the ABC flat scenario. You know, there is a very, very high chance that we could be actually heading up to 110K, right? We form that 3-wave structure here inside of the B wave of this flat ride over here of your wave Y. It is just something that I'm not too interested in shorts, guys. I have to say, I'm just remaining longs for the moment, and so far so good. So yeah, not much. Level to take a short as an SFP, the lower highs right over here at 110.7. That is a possibility. I would probably attempt that if I'm in front of the charts, okay? Easy to manage risk. You get the rejection, attempt the short, stop at above the high. This could actually get a pretty decent pullback. And for longs, new long opportunities, well, you know, I was very happy to see this as a 3-wave structure, and I really enjoyed, you know, seeing the point of control holding here. So it was a good option to get into the long. Could we form, you know, I think there's going to be a little bit more time if we were to form that triangle. We will have more information, of course, in the next, you know, 1 to 2 days, and we could be speculating, okay, for a much better long position if we get the triangle developed, okay? Because the other options, you know, the flat could be pretty ferocious and aggressive, you know, not very easy to handle, okay? You never know. This is why the short from this high as a SFP, all right? Only if you SFP, if you don't swing failure pattern, then we go to higher levels. So that would be the only level that I would consider a short, or getting a first 5-wave structure to the downside, the bounce, and maybe I would be interested in the short position, guys, keeping it simple and easy. And for new longs, you don't want to long the pumps, all right, unless you longed at lower levels, okay? If we do get up here and we form a 3-wave structure, potentially a back test of the point of control could be an option. If we do get the breakdown, I'm interested in an SFP of the lows here, even an SFP of these lows right over here, guys. These are the best levels to long, okay? If we were to get an aggressive move down, I do really think, guys, that we're going to get a bounce and we will not break down successfully. So just look at the higher lows as liquidity grabs. They're the best options to long if we do swing failure pattern. Not much more to say, guys. Thank you very much for joining. If you want more updates, make sure to join the Discord or the free Telegram community, guys, where we have a channel providing the different setups and signals that me and the team are getting into. If you want more education, you have the Discord, okay? And the Discord, you have the modules. We provide updates every single day and also setups, and you have all sorts here, okay? A really good community to join. Thank you, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one.